Overrated, underrated at the quarterback position in the Big Ten. Who are you putting where? We're finding out today on the Locked On Big Ten Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big Ten Squad. From USC to Ohio State, from Michigan to Oregon, from Nebraska to Washington, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big Ten weekend. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big Ten Squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome into the Big Ten Squad. I'm Spencer McLaughlin. Craig Sheeman of Locked On Big Ten is here as well. We have Ryan Herrings of Locked On Badgers, Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies, Zach Seiko, Locked On Nittany Lions, who definitely is not rooting for the most overrated quarterback in the Big Ten. That's definitely not true. Mark Culkin, Locked On USC, Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, who doesn't have a quarterback that we can feel overrated about just yet, and Brian Smith of Locked On Seminoles and The Portal joining us here today. So, Craig, you've got a good holistic view of the conference. Who's the most over at Drew Aller quarterback in the Big Ten? The most overrated quarterback. Don't worry, Seiko. I'll stop poking fun at you. Never.
We have, other than USC, who else has a returning starter at quarterback?
Well, let me go backwards and look at this past year. I'll talk to my good friend Ryan Herrings, of course, who Luke Fickell for going into year 3 hasn't got quarterback right. They come in and make this announcement that they were going to do air attack and Phil Longo and all that. And they got I forget the kid that got out of his first year. I've already forgotten his name already.
Yeah, we have two. It's fine.
But then they had Tyler Van Dyke, who I thought was the most overrated quarterback coming out of Miami, and Brandon Locke wasn't very accurate as well. So if they don't get the quarterback right here in year 3, overrated or underrated, I think Luke Fickell's going to be in trouble at Wisconsin.
By the way, Craig, you said Braden Locke wasn't very accurate, as if there were other quarterback traits he had that were good.
Well,
it was his fault that those receivers couldn't catch. I watched.
Well,
yeah, I mean, listen, there's a reason I've waited till basketball season to come on the portal, and we're still talking about football. We should be talking. That's just 16th in the country in basketball. I thought we were talking point guards today. No, I'll tell you this. Billy Edwards Jr., who was second in the Big Ten in yards per game last year. It was Billy Edwards Jr. 15 touchdowns, 9 picks. Again, with a Maryland team that had no offensive line.
Yeah,
listen, it's a low bar. It's a low bar for us considering what we were last year. We will be better, and I think you can make an argument that he is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the Big Ten, just based on the team he had around him last year outside of one receiver. So it's looking better for us.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I think you could have talked yourself into that narrative either of the last 2 years, Ryan. But hey, maybe this is finally the year. Speaking of which, Roman, will get back to you in a moment because Seiko, I know, is inching to jump in here because of my shots at Drew Aller. And I actually like Drew Aller. I don't know that I would describe him, in all seriousness, Zach, as the most overrated quarterback in the Big Ten because he's the guy who we know. He's the only guy I look at and go, I know exactly what this guy is. And he might be the best in the Big Ten by default, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Thoughts?
It is, you have to go and do it with the frame of mind that he is going to be starting for his 3rd consecutive season. And I think that goes a long way. Has Drew Aller had bad games in the spotlight? Yes, but last season was a huge step forward. Mark should know this. Drew had one of his best games and was the reason that they won out in Southern California with the way that he played. So
fighting was the reason you won.
Oh yeah, someone had to get him the football. Someone had to get Julian Fleming the football in those 4th down conversions, right? He threw for over 300 yards.
Julian Fleming caught passes this year?
Julian Fleming, yes, caught passes this past season.
We're all surprised.
And I don't remember
Very surprised.
anything, but continue, Zach, with your tirade.
So yes, it's an absolute rant. But yes, I believe that Drew Aller is the best quarterback in the Big Ten because of the intangibles, because he is that true NFL pro style type of quarterback. 3rd year consecutive starting, 2nd year with Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator that has got the best football out of him. Forget about Mike Yurcich. Andy Kotelnicki was able to get that from him. And then you just return complementary pieces to the offense. Yes, they are losing Tyler Warren, and I get that was a bulk of the passing game. But you're getting 2 4-year co-starting running backs back. An offensive line that returns 4 out of 5 starters plus a whole lot of depth. So I understand wide receivers in question, but they got Mark Kyron Hudson from USC. That's not a bad wide receiver. And then they got a speedster in Devontae Ross out of the transfer portal. So Drew Aller does have things within this offense to help him out and help him get better. Just because he played a bad game against a top 5 defense does not mean he's a bad quarterback.
By the way, Seiko, I play an unhealthy amount of EA College Football 25, and there's a great play in Texas's offense called RPO Alert from a twin back set. You know, you got 2 guys in the backfield and you flare one guy out and you can hand it off or throw it wide. And I tell you what, I think Penn State is going to run that play 900 times in 2025 and call it the passing offense. But Roman, the Drew Aller conversation, is he the best quarterback in the Big Ten?
I mean, by default, yeah. First of all, one thing I got to say, Ryan, speaking for the West Coast guys, for Spencer, Mark, and myself, saying 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions as a positive is absolutely sickening. That is just straight up disgusting from some of the offenses that Spencer, Mark, and myself have watched over the years. Yeah, let's go with that.
It's a September in the old Pac-12.
That is a September in the Pac-12.
80 steps.
RIP Pac-12, by the way. I always got to make sure that gets in there. But the one guy I want to bring to the table, Spencer, instead of Drew Aller, is another known commodity in terms of we've seen enough of what he brings to the table. I don't think any of it's any good, is Fernando Mendoza. I've just not like I've watched him for the past couple of years, and the great displeasure of watching that Cam offense up here in 2023, and just every time I watch what they bring to the table, it's not enough. And I think Curt Cignetti could do a really good job turning that around. We know our guy Jacob Goins is in here to defend him, but I think that this is going to be a really, if it turns out fine with him, if it turns out fine, that it'll prove that Curt Cignetti is truly one of the 5-10 best coaches in the country. But I just don't like the arm talent. I don't think that he's got everything it takes with the velocity to throw it deep consistently the way that they like to push the ball down the field in that offense. So until further notice, I'm going to stick with Fernando Mendoza as the most overrated quarterback.
I think I might be agreeing with you, Roman, there. I really do. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, is Julian saying, let's say he starts. Can he be better than Fernando Mendoza, but worse than Drew Aller, better than Drew Aller in year one? What kind of expectations do you have for the 5-star?
He'll be better than Mendoza. If he's a starter, he'll be better than Drew Aller. Ryan Day has always had a quarterback that is elite. Well, no. Kyle McCord in 2023, I wouldn't say was elite. But I still think
he got elite after he left Ohio State.
Yeah, but I still think in 2023 you're taking Kyle McCord over Drew Aller in that season. If you stack those seasons back to back,
with Marvin Harrison Jr., sure.
Are those my only 2 options?
Well, this conversation, yes, absolutely. But I do think if Sain's a guy, you got to think Sain's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, because Ryan Day always has one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Even McCord was one of those guys that was in the top statistically in the Big Ten in his 1 year starting at Ohio State.
Okay, I've got a great comparison here for Julian Sayinjay. He's about to be Kirk Cousins from a couple of years ago. Hear me out. Just hear me out. How many times on a given week in the NFL did you watch Kirk Cousins with a physical manifestation of the phrase "F it, Justin Jefferson is down there somewhere"? Like, that was just a routine ordeal. And you know what? Jeremiah Smith is down there somewhere, man. Just chuck it down to him and see what happens. That's am I selling him short? I mean, at the very least, he'll always have that, right? It's just just throw it up, see if Jeremiah gets.
That means you're going to lose all your primetime games, though, if he's like Kirk Cousins. And Ohio State's got to win those.
You'll have it anyway. No, if that's the offense, I'm cool with it, but there's too many other guys, and Saban's too talented. Based off the things we've heard, that he will not have to just rely on Jeremiah Smith to get the ball down the field.
Okay. Brian Smith, you've seen all of these quarterbacks in the Big Ten at some point in time, or covered them on your show or many others. Make sure you unmute your mic before you start talking, but who's the most overrated quarterback in the Big Ten?
I'm going to go Aiden Childs, because I've heard people talking about he's going to play in the NFL, and he had like 13 TDs and 11 picks or something. I know Michigan State sucked, but like he wasn't even in the stratosphere for ready, and he had to play.
Nor close.
So I know it's kind of sad to pick on the guy who was like a redshirt freshman or whatever, but like his talent's insane. Can't read a defense any better than I can dunk a basketball. So it's I think he's got a long way to go.
Are you telling me that you don't have secret bunnies that we just don't expect, Brian?
No, I'm 51. I used to be able to jump. I can't anymore. But those days
Do you
are
have any
long gone.
videos of you jump? I would pay to see Brian jumping so high he could dunk a basketball.
I can
Mostly
touch the
because
rim.
I will
didn't say
never
I could
dunk a basketball in my entire life.
Wait a minute. How tall is Brian?
I'm 5'9.5", 5'10".
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ryan Herrings of Locked On Badgers is over there like, basketball? Can we talk about basketball? Please talk about basketball, guys. Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go underrated quarterbacks next. I bet I know who Roman is going with. Just, 3 guesses there. But everyone else is a complete and total mystery. So you're going to have to stick around to find out. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Plus, do you love college football? Probably if you're listening to or watching this show. You can bet everything you want. Win totals for a lot of the teams that you see featured here on today's squad show. National title odds, conference title odds, they are all over there. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, rolling along here with the Big Ten squad. Let's go the other side of the quarterback debate in this conference. Most underrated quarterback in the conference, Roman, is...
It's Damon Williams. It has to be.
Of course it is.
You set me up for it so perfectly. Oh, hold on. Oh, how many groans am I getting from around here?
A lot of groans
watched him?
for our audio audience out there. Lots of groans. Brian Smith is not having it. Mark is about to tune out of the conversation. Ryan's taken aback. So go ahead, defend your guy there, Roman, and then everyone else will do something else.
It's very clear that everyone who's tuned out outside of Brian, all due respect for everything you do, it's very clear you guys haven't watched it. Where I've been so impressed with everything he's been able to do throughout, a couple games starting, completes over 80% of his passes in both of his starts, one of them being at Oregon against the best defensive line in the country. And with a full season starting with his #1 wide receiver back in Denzel Boston, getting somebody who can stretch the field in Omari Evans from Penn State, with Decker DeGraff at tight end, freshman All-American last year, and an improved offensive line, he looks like somebody who could be a legitimate playmaker.
Nothing says robust passing game like a Penn State wide receiver,
Jay, you sit there, take that abuse, the best defensive line in the country.
I mean, I'm wearing a hat that says national champs. Roman's team didn't make the playoff, so I don't have much to say right now.
I think the hat's
That's the only comeback? That's the only comeback you have is defensive line?
I mean, there's a reason why Ohio State's D-line is going to have 4 guys get drafted. Is Washington's D-line going to have 2 guys get drafted?
That was more directed at Mark than you, Jay. That was absolutely.
I saw what Ohio State did to Oregon. I compared apples to apples. I think I'm going to give the nod to Ohio State's defensive line over Oregon's. I know you're trying to build your guy up there, Roman, but come back to reality. Puff, puff, pass.
He got sacked 10 times in that game. It was a disaster.
Puff, puff, pass.
I'll take Roman's side here. I'll be the one to do
Thank you,
it.
Zach.
I'll be the one.
Got
No,
some
I
support
do.
this year.
It is okay to say that Damon Williams is underrated. Seriously, I think you give him winter workouts, you give him another spring football season. The dude, I mean, he's got dual threat written all over him. You look at that game against, I get it, it's Louisville, so the defense isn't exactly doing defensive things, but he really didn't make a mistake in that game. And that is saying something for someone that didn't play a lot of college football to that point. So I would be on the lookout. I mean, I saw him play in Beaver Stadium, raw as a football player, but as a pure athlete, he's got it. And then I think Roman makes a good point. And then throw in Jonah Coleman as well. I mean, Damon Williams really could have a lot of rushing yards, let alone passing yards, and what he does in the aerial attack.
Let me throw one out there for underrated. Luke Altmyer at Illinois. His name has not popped up yet.
Yeah.
Brian's with me. This guy just led Illinois to their first 10-win season in like 20 years. And he did it with,
Close.
I mean, a couple of solid weapons, to be fair. Franklin and Bryant were solid wideouts. But, I mean, I felt like that Illinois team really overachieved. Brett Bielema did a heck of a job. But, I mean, Altmyer? Brian, the floor is yours for showing him love.
Well, I mean, here are his stats. And again, he's got Illinois' receivers and tight ends to throw to here. Okay. 2,717 yards, 22 touchdowns, only 6 picks. He's in Illinois' offense.
Yeah.
I mean, what would he do with real receivers that have NFL potential? Like, I doubt Illinois got more than one guy.
I would take Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. Are we kidding me?
They're good players, but they're not like Ohio State or Oregon or something. They're good, but they're not like first, second round picks.
Well, I mean, of course, Penn State would take them, though. That's
Yes.
like, let's be real here.
Penn State's last game, the receivers.
Would they use them though?
That's the good point.
Seiko's
Roman.
like, 2 guys that caught passes and touchdowns this year? I want them on my team, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
No,
Have
Luke's
some
a good player.
sympathy, empathy over
He's
here.
coming back, and they've got a really good roster. Illinois could be the fly in the ointment in the Big Ten, and he's the guy driving the bus.
Yeah, Craig, you look at a lot of different teams in the Big Ten in a solid amount of depth, I will say, over on Locked On Big Ten. Underrated quarterback in the Big Ten, who are you going with?
Well, again, I'll go back to last year because I can't tell you half the guys moving forward, but Max Brosmer surprised the hell out of me at Minnesota.
Good pick.
Coming in from what, New Hampshire. I thought, what is PJ Fleck doing? He needs a big year. Heck, they got 8 wins this year. He's my vote for most underrated quarterback in the Big Ten, or at least a guy that certainly did better than I thought he was going to do.
Mark Culkin, Locked On USC, where you put Jaden Mayava in the rank of Big Ten quarterbacks right now?
I was actually just going to touch on this point. The fact that we are hunting for a great quarterback in the Big Ten Conference this year, I don't think we have one. I think it's a conference of just average quarterbacks. They have to prove themselves. Jaden's right in the thick of that. I'm one of those ones where he has to prove it. I know he's got the physical skills. I just don't know if he has the mental intangibles to get it done. Again, strong arm. He looks like he's mobile. I just need better decision making. And we're going to find out if Lincoln Riley truly is a quarterback whisperer, or if you have to be a unique talent to make Lincoln Riley look good.
I mean, I think his track record's pretty good.
Again,
He's had elite players.
does he need
Jalen Hurts got tossed out of the door by Alabama.
Does
Not
he need?
tossed out. That's strong.
I mean, they said we got this other guy who's better.
Well, that's back when
Yeah,
Tua was.
as Zach said, he went in the top 5.
Jalen Hurts wasn't chopped liver when he left Alabama. Again, we're talking about, does Lincoln Riley need somebody who is a Heisman level quarterback to run his offense? Somebody who can make the unnatural look natural, the Kyler Murrays, the Baker Mayfields, the Jalen Hurts to a certain extent, even though he didn't win the Heisman. Caleb Williams, does he need that type of quarterback? Because when he doesn't have that type of quarterback, the record kind of speaks for itself. We're going to see, he's going into year 4 now. It's his own guys. He can't, he doesn't have Caleb Williams to lean on. These last 2 years have been interesting.
I think the Big Ten and the SEC both have so many interesting questions. For no reason in particular, I'm going to work Oregon into this conversation. I am neutral arbiter of all things college football, of course. But Dante Moore kind of represents what the quarterbacks are going to be, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country, where you look at it and you go, I see the potential. I know there's Julian Sain or Damon Williams or heck, even Billy Edwards Jr. to an extent. Go down the lineup of quarterbacks in the SEC. You don't have that many proven commodities anywhere in the country. There really aren't that. In the SEC, you've got Garrett Nussmeier and Lenora Sellers, who I know because I watched them start for a full season, that I can say, yeah, they can lead their team to 10 wins and something close to a playoff appearance because I know they can do that. But if you feel that way about the Big Ten going around, I don't think it's that different in many other places, because this past quarterback draft, it wasn't great. It's not great for the NFL, but it was really good in college. And I think there are a lot of questions. And Jay, I mean, you've got one of those questions. Oregon, Ohio State are kind of in the same spot.
Yeah, the quarterback situation at Ohio State's very interesting, not only because Julian Sand's unproven, there's no experience. Like, there's nothing there. You got a freshman, a sophomore, an incoming forget the whole year thing now, but it's just odd. Only thing that's a constant at Ohio State, doesn't matter who the quarterback is, Ryan Day's going to get the job done. The one time he didn't, I think it was Kyle McCord just didn't get up to speed as quickly as the other guys, and he's not nowhere close to being the same quarterback as the other guys that Ryan Day's coached at Ohio State. So you have a belief in Ryan Day that he'll get the job done. With Julian Sands' talent, while he is unproven, I think by midseason you'll be looking at a guy who is probably one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten because of how quickly he is processing and getting up to speed with college football.
Yeah. It's a lot of I don't know, maybe, possibly that, like we saw glimpses of Damon Williams and Jaden Mayotte, and I mean I can see it, but again we come back to Brian Smith, like it's kind of just Drew Aller and everybody else, right?
I'll take Luke Altmyer.
What did they do up in Illinois that got the best out of Luke Altmyer that Lane Kiffin and his wide receivers couldn't do?
Well, schedule.
That's a great question.
Like schedule plays a part.
I'm looking at you saying Luke Altmyer. It's like, well, wait a minute. Lane Kiffin's a better offensive mind. Lane Kiffin had better wide receivers.
And for some reason,
and that's an issue that USC needs to figure out.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because Lane is such a quarterback guru. That's the one guy, for whatever reason, he didn't get it. But he gets it in a totally archaic offense and does better. It's bizarre. I don't know.
Sometimes less.
You know what? Go ahead. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Illinois overthought the room. I'm with you there, Mark. I think they were very simple, straightforward, kind of easy reads. I think there can be something to that you can overwhelm a young kid sometimes, or maybe you just needed a new environment. Maybe you just needed a different coaching staff and it just all clicked a little bit better. We've still got one more segment to get to on the Big Ten squad today. Is the idea of Penn State being the expected Big Ten champion really that crazy? That's coming up next. All right, we're going to work Seiko in here last so that he can get angry at what everyone else says about his team. So, Craig, you may begin. Penn State has got a bunch of returning talent, returning quarterback, as we were talking about in the previous segment. Is it crazy to look at them and say they should win the Big Ten?
It's not crazy. And look, I'll give them a little bit of credit here this year for, making it to the Final Four. They got their chance in the playoffs. I always said, and I think if you look back, if instead of the BCS system and then the 14 playoff system, if we had a 12-team playoff, there is no program in the country that would have benefited from a 12-team playoff more than Penn State over the last decade, bar none. So they would have got in. And this year they got in, and they could show you what they could do. And they make it to the Final Four, a field goal away from making it an all Big Ten finals. So, no, none of it's crazy. I still think they have big questions at wide receiver. I love their running game. They got to replace Ty Warren at tight end. They're always going to be good in the trenches, offensive line and defensive line, and that plays well in the Big Ten. So, no, it's not crazy at all. But until they do it, then they'll do it. So we'll hold our breath. It was year 12 for James Franklin. So look, I think they took a big step forward this year, and I think they could do it again next year.
Herrings, would you ever put your own money down on the idea that Penn State will win the Big Ten?
No. Why? Like it's like I said, it's not crazy. And I see Zach rolling his eyes at me. It's not crazy, but like if a pole vaulter tries 12 times to clear a pole, and every time he falls on his face, like you're not going to bet on him the 13th time. It's like bet on Ohio State because they have more talent, and we saw Aller in big games. We've seen him in big moments. He doesn't have that extra dimension that wins the games in the biggest spots. He doesn't. And now you're losing an all-generational combination of Mark Bavaro and Brent Jones and Jay Novacek. Like Ty Warren's gone. Like you're not going to replace that with the receivers that we saw. They lost massive pieces on defense, and we still know who the quarterback
Ryan,
is.
I got to be honest. I have no idea who you just talked about and referred to.
Does anybody know those tight ends? And
Yes,
like,
I do.
okay,
Everyone
thank you, the old timers, the old heads.
Nice.
Thank you. But the point is, they lost a generational tight end. Sorry about that, Spencer. I was pulling back to the
I
90s.
just didn't know where you were going. You throw out these names. I'm like, what? Are those hockey players?
They were really good.
You're losing a generational tight end. We don't believe in the receivers, and we know who Drew Aller is. So no, I don't.
Can he not get better?
No.
Ryan,
Okay, wow.
I mean, and not to the point where I'm going to pick them over Ohio State. Is what I would say.
Roman, would you ever do that?
I mean, I had him in the Big Ten championship this past season, and I feel comfortable putting them at that
Did
pedestal
you
right now
pick them
because
to win the Big Ten championship?
I didn't. I picked your team and they didn't make it.
The
But you know,
full
shout out to
team.
your team for being.
He has the hat though, so
Yeah,
He does have a hat.
Thank you.
There are three
My-
hats on the show today, and one of them carries a little bit more weight than the others.
Spencer, I'm curious to get your thoughts on that as well, especially after Ryan's comments about the pole vaulter making it over and never making it with Oregon. But that's not a road we need to go down right now. But I think that with the experience that is coming back in the running backs in Drew Aller, that's important. The continuity is really important when we look around this conference with everything you talked about with quarterbacks and with the consistent, as Craig said, the consistency in the trenches. That's all really important. So I'm comfortable putting Penn State in that spot for now.
Roman, I'd just like to point out that I have had national championship hopes mostly, year in and year out. Not always, though, for Oregon since about 2010. I had hopes of the Mariners making the playoffs since I was 5, and they didn't do that for 21 years and over and over and over again. So if you try something enough, eventually you'll break through the wall. But Mark, would that ever happen for Penn State winning the Big Ten again?
Look, if they're not going to do it this year, just fire James Franklin. I'm telling you, this year the Big Ten is one of those years anybody can win it because you're only as good as your quarterback. And right now, you've got the best quarterback only because he's the most experienced quarterback. He's been in the same system longer than anybody else. If James Franklin can't figure it out in 2025, leave him at the tarmac.
Oof. Oof.
All right.
That's how they roll in
Them be harsh words. Don't worry, Seiko. Your time to wrap up today's show is almost here. Jay,
how many years do you need?
well, apparently, since we've got a 12-team playoff, Ohio State just showed us you don't even need to win the Big Ten. Sometimes it's better to not win the Big Ten, isn't that right, Jay?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there was a loss in there that still stings, but at the end of the day, they win.
My heart breaks
they
for
did win
you.
the national championship. I can't put Penn State. If I'm projecting what's going to happen in December in the national championship game, I can't say Penn State's going to win. They have talent too. They have a quarterback that's, I think, good enough to win the game to lead them there. I just can't do it. I think there's another team. Not even say there's going to be Ohio State because there's a lot of stuff at Ohio State that's unproven guys that haven't played a lot of snaps on defense that are trying to figure out some things there. I just can't put them there because the James Franklin thing really bugs me. And as good as Drew Aller is as a quarterback, I don't know if I can trust him in that game when he's going up against a quarterback that's at his level or slightly above to get it done. Seiko's not going to like that, but I just can't put Penn State there right now.
Yeah, Jay, I feel you, man. Nothing more annoying than a coach that gives you a quality win every year you play him and never beats your team. I mean, that is just thorn in the side. That's the worst. That's the absolute worst. Brian Smith, would you ever look at Penn State's roster as good enough to win the Big Ten? Because I'm kind of, not entirely, but I understand where Mark is coming from here, and that can take a lot for Mark and I to see an issue the same way, but this kind of feels like the year for Penn State to crown themselves Big Ten champs.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They don't play the Buckeyes next fall.
They do.
They do. They play them in Columbus.
Okay, well,
No,
then they're not going to win it. That's it. They
That's
can't
it?
beat Ohio State there.
I'm clipping
Not
that
gonna
and
win.
saving it for later. I'm putting it in my pocket.
Seiko's keeping receipts. All right, Seiko, you've waited your turn. You've been incredibly patient. You may now rip all of them to shreds. I was very nice, I'd just like to point out.
Yes, you were. So I don't need to go after you. Look, I don't like, I think it's messed up thinking when you just assume that, oh, Drew Aller's going to stay the same quarterback. Oh, that Penn State's going to stay the same team, that they're not all, that selective players are not going to get better, that they're not going to improve. Penn State just they are serious. This is beyond just winning the Big Ten championship. This is about a national championship. You don't go and poach the best defensive coordinator in college football away from the team that has been the thorn in your side if you didn't think you had a legitimate chance of making it that far. You would promote within or do whatever you can to save a little money. You went and got Jim Knowles, and then you pair him with Andy Kotelnicki, who is a top 5 offensive coordinator, how you look at it. So that's the best coordinator duo in the country. Everybody mentions, well, what about Drew Aller and what about James Franklin? James Franklin has the best staff that he's ever put together in his entire tenure. He doesn't have limited resources. Well, we can't spend that much. That's how you end up with Mike Yurcich, because you're pinching pennies. Whereas this time around, the athletic director says, who is your top coordinator? Go get him, go recruit him. So James Franklin might not be the best game day coach, but he is a damn good program manager, and where he has brought Penn State from to where it is now, because I don't know that there are a lot of other head coaches that would get Penn State to at least 10-2, that would not have them trip up. Oh, they don't win the big game. They don't lose the bad one either. And I know that's only going to count for so much for so long, because now Penn State, this comes with the territory. There are no excuses. I agree that this is Penn State's best opportunity to win a national championship. You bring back a 4th-year quarterback, 3rd-year consecutive starting in the same offense, 2 4-year co-starter running backs, 4 out of your 5 starters on the offensive line. There were plenty of NFL caliber players that could have gone off to the draft and didn't, in Denai Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant, Zach Key Wheatley, and then you get players like A.J. Harris and Tony Rojas to emerge. And I could bore everybody and go up and down the roster of who, they lost Tyler Warren. Guess what? They have a 5-star tight end waiting in the wings named Luke Reynolds, and everybody is really high on his development at this point in time as a second-year player. So it's all there. The spring transfer portal window is going to tell us a lot about these teams, because Ohio State and Oregon, if they make a push because we can't project that. We're sitting here in February. We don't know what's going to happen after spring football. Free agency is going to happen, and things could totally change. But right now, presently in February, before any spring transfer portal window, Penn State is the best overall team in the Big Ten. And my expectation, until things change with the portal, they win the Big Ten and are a national title contender, one of the next to Texas.
Save the receipts.
A lot of words to say, you know what? I agree. He has to do it this year or he gets fired. That's all you had to say.
Well, he won't get fired.
I don't think he'll fired. No,
you can't fire a guy that wins as many games as he did. Like that's
how you end up being Nebraska.
That's a good point.
Oh, that's an unfortunately accurate point. All right, and on that unwarranted, Craig had one more thought. Craig, go ahead.
No, that was it. I thought great answer by Zach Seiko. And once upon a time, we used to say you couldn't fire a coach like Ryan Day because he won too many games. You stuck with him, and look what happened.
Spencer, you need to go Google Jay Novacek, by the way. Bavaro.
Jay Novacek? I like the name. I like the name.
Early '90s Cowboys. He was with
super good.
Early '90s Cowboys. What's that? Last time the Cowboys were actually relevant? Yeah, that's can't believe I don't know that guy because I wasn't alive. All right, we'll wrap the Big Ten squad there for this week, but we'll be back next week as well. Craig Sheeman locked on Big Ten, Ryan Herring's locked on Badgers, Roman Tomashoff locked on Huskies, Zach Seiko locked on Nittany Lions, Mark Culkin locked on USC, Jay Stevens locked on Buckeyes. Yeah, cool hat, Jay. That's great. And Brian Smith of The Portal. I'm Spencer McLaughlin. We'll see you next time, everybody, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.